And I think that's why a lot of voters are happy that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are finally going through the federal government and trying to take out some of this bureaucracy that we probably just don't need. So I'm reading to you what Sean Duffy says. He's the Secretary of the Transportation. I have no reason to doubt his numbers.
Karen, when you hear this, I mean,
yeah, he knows best. Scientists, woke and gay. They don't know best when they're talking about their specific field of research. Sean Duffy, television personality, well, he's the transportation secretary, so he knows best. Yeah. Pete Hegseth, well, guess what? He's leading the DOD. I don't see you leading the DOD. He's not a DEI candidate. He's a DUI candidate. That's right. He knows best.
Look, Americans are concerned about bloat in the federal government. They have been for a very long time. What do you make of how it's been meted out?
So the concern that I think a lot of Americans have, we can all agree there's bloat. We can all agree that we need to deal with that. At the same time, what we're seeing is speed for the sake of creating momentum to create a sense of things are happening. At the same time, look what happened Friday. We had nuclear scientists fired, and then they said, oops, we need those people because they have a technical skill that nobody else has. So the problem that I have with the way they're doing it is, and I went to the Doge website to see if they would say anything about, look, we are conducting this process to make sure we don't harm American safety, their health, or take money out of their wallets. They don't say that. And we're finding out the consequences and the impact of some of these things.
This is a problem born out of not having any principled leftists on any number of different mainstream outlets. The automatic position of the most quote unquote like anti-Trump liberal on the panel should not be that it's definitely for the greater good that we're engaging in mass layoffs in the federal government. You shouldn't be playing catch up. Your first position should be that there is no reason to engage in layoffs at a time when we should probably be hiring more people. But because their underlying worldview is unfortunately so similar to the Republican worldview in terms of maximizing efficiency, they start the position by saying, no, there is actually reason to like fire a bunch of government employees. They're just not doing it right, and they're firing the wrong people. No, that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say, what the are you doing? We need more people working, not less. That should be your starting position. And then you work your way up to that argument, which is that, and here is why it's really stupid when you engage in these sorts of idiotic layoffs, because obviously you're eliminating a bunch of positions that were, or eliminating the positions of a bunch of government employees that were working on really important things. That's why it was so frustrating for me when I saw Ro Khanna start off by being like, well, Bill Clinton did a fantastic job eliminating 400,000 federal government employees, but he did it by working with Congress. It's like, that's not, like, why are you presenting that as a good thing? Don't you realize that the underlying ideology there, the underlying premise that you're operating off of is that it is a good thing to fire government employees? How is this in any way, shape, or form an adequate counterbalance to the Republican neoliberalism? This is why I say, and many others say correctly, that the Democrats are also neoliberal. Don't you only fire government employees when your economy's in the shit and you're producing as much as you should? Sure, it will work in Argentina, but why is it being done in the U.S. with very competent workers? First of all, it's also not good in Argentina either. I don't think it's good in Argentina either. I don't think austerity is a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing. If it was a good thing, we wouldn't enforce it upon the entirety of the global South. It's just wild because now we're accelerating it to our and doing it to ourselves. One might say Republicans have always engaged in this sort of thing, but never to this degree.
Nobody at the FAA is dispensable. I think you have to keep everybody there at least, you know, for the time being, because we've had these major plane crashes that you haven't seen in 16 years.
Kevin, the optics of this is what you're referring to.
I think the issue is they're not whacking enough. There's this concept in private equity when you get a bankrupt.
God, I mean, how can people look at this guy and not see him as anything but a villain, dude? First of all, you're Canadian. Excuse me, ICE, this bald right here, okay? What is his productive output on U.S. soil? You know what I mean? Get this guy out of here. Pack him up. What the hell is this? Send his ass back to Canada. Yeah, I'm going to Laken Riley act his ass. I'm going to be like, I saw him stealing a bag of Skittles. Deport him, please. I saw him getting in a boat again. Arrest him, officers. You know what he has done in boats in the past. And this time, his wife wasn't even in the boat. So he got no one else to blame this time, okay? Same guy.
Wealth, this is according to Oxfam, of the world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people.
Yeah, dude. I'm a child born in Rwanda with a genetic disorder. I can't wait to look up to the 1% and feel the aspirational goals. I'm feeling my bootstraps right now. I can't see with my eyes. I'm feeling with my hands the bootstraps that I will be tugging on. Fantastic. Psychopath, dude. Yeah, low key, think he's helping with the cause with shit like this. Let him cook. No, dude. You want to know why? I used to think that too. But these past couple of years, like especially with Elon Musk getting a prominent position in the government, has caused me to realize that no, actually, people don't realize how stupid these dudes are. They don't realize how evil these dudes are. They just genuinely think it's God ordained, and they deserve the position that they have in society. I'm not even kidding. Like poor hogs love this shit, dude. They love this shit. Americans are incredibly servile. Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. Oh my God. They cannot imagine looking at a guy like this and thinking that's a villain. That's an evil villain. He's doing evil villain talk right now.
What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be Bill Gates.
That's the motivation
Only
everybody
thing
needs.
between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
She's right. She should have cooked his ass. Damn, look at the CBC, bro. Yeah. Someone living on $1 a day in Africa is going to look up to Bill Gates and be like, thank God, one day, me too. Only thing, you hear that? Hey guys, if you live in the global south and your government has been destabilized actively or propped up by the Western forces, okay, and you're working in horrifying conditions every day, you just didn't aspire hard enough. You don't have that Sigma grind set, dude.
Don't tell me that you want to redistribute wealth again. That's never going to happen. Okay?
You know what? You take a simple stat like this, which is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact.
It's a celebratory stat. I'm very excited about it. I'm wonderful to see it happen. I tell kids every day,
if we did not have an entirely captive, entirely servile population, this is basically the same as the let them eat cake. Okay, this is a let them eat cake statement, straight up. By the way, the 3.5 billion people living in poverty, like the top however many people have as much wealth as the bottom 3.5 billion, that number has worsened. Or if you're Kevin O'Leary, it's gotten way more fantastic. Okay, Mr. Fantastic. Just so you understand, wealth has consolidated in the hands of even less people now. I think the last Oxfam number is something like the top 3 people have as much money as the bottom 50%. It's no longer even 85 people. It's now like 3. Asking my landlord to raise my rent to motivate me to grind more next month. Yeah, Sigma grind set, baby. Be honest. You hear this fucking douchebag say stuff like that, and you don't even for a moment think imagine if there was a competent government that just sent him to the countryside for a little bit to toil the land. Really? You don't think that? You're lying if you don't think that. Now, I'm not saying that's the best possible way to go about it. Many different methods exist. Seizing his assets. Expropriate is the most beautiful word in the English language. Maoist Trump. JD Pondon. Tariffs are no longer the most beautiful word in the English language, believe me. It's expropriation. There can be no end to exploitation of the American working class without expropriation.
always cut deeper, harder when there's fat and waste.
If that's the case, why don't we take away all your wealth and then make you start from square one again? I mean, after all, you've done it once, you can do it again, right? And also, it's super simple, right? It'll make you grind harder, Kevin. I think that's what we should do. We should hit a reset real quick, you know? Dude, think about how much motivation he will have if he has nothing. The less you have, the more aspirational you are. Get back in the grind, dog. You should be excited.
FAA, it's not the people. The code is cobalt. It's from the 60s. It needs CapEx put into it for the technology to be upgraded to make it safer. Fat like a chicken. All of these agencies are like big fat chickens dripping over barbecues of fat. This is the best barbecue I've ever seen, but I don't think it's happening fast enough. They're not cutting enough. Keep slashing,
cobalt.
Keep hacking while you have a
The new old coding system, Cobalt. At least he got close enough, dude. I don't even think Elon knows what that is. For the record, at least he got close enough to saying sounding it out almost correctly. Close enough. I know it's Cobalt. All I'm stating is Elon doesn't even know what that is. That's how low the standards are.
cut. More cutting. Believe me, it's going to work out just great. Everybody
Even
should be
people with
happy
the
about
nuclear
this.
codes, cut them too.
Cut everything. Because if you don't see what they're doing and they can't show you that they're adding value, you whack.
I actually think it's okay if they run into a stumble here or there because the project is so massive. The need to cut is so massive. The government is so massive. It's inconceivable that you wouldn't make a mistake here or there. But I think that's acceptable if the greater goal is achieved, which is a smaller government, more efficient government,
Even if someone,
trim the fat.
even if someone dies, or even if someone, because
Are
we're
you
talking
alleging
about,
that someone has died from this?
we don't know. I'm talking about when the rubber meets the road. I'm talking about, for example, Kansas City, 30,000 government employees might be laid off. It will destroy the economy of Kansas City. That's okay.
Why do you say that?
Because I'm reading what the individuals from Kansas City have been saying, that they're very concerned.
What do you think
if
they're going to
30
say when they're going to get whacked?
Of course they're going to say that. But my point is, do we think that's smart
Does
to
the-
live in an American city just go under?
How many American cities need a massively oversized federal government to stay afloat? I mean, isn't that says more about the city than the government?
But when did we get to the point
Yeah, of course. Oh, God. I hate this. I hate this so much because under normal circumstances, everyone should understand the position that he's advocating for, which is mass layoffs. He doesn't have to care about it because his job relies on him being careless about that sort of thing. He probably doesn't have any immediate family members that will be impacted by this. This is at the heart of so much of the conservative commentary, just being a smug, out of touch asshole. Incredibly frustrating. Incredibly frustrating. I already talked about this before with Alabama, the state of Alabama. In the state of Alabama, the University of Alabama is the second largest hiring body in the entire state. Public sector jobs that'll be lost in that process. Okay, they rely on those grants. Cut those grants, you have to cut those jobs. A lot of those people that are being cut on the overhead side are going to not necessarily be woke and gay college professors or whatever, even though that's also ridiculous, right? To cut those jobs is also ridiculous, but there are going to be, janitorial staff and things like that.
ABC News learning the top Social Security official has stepped down after clashing with the Department of Government Efficiency over access to the sensitive personal information of millions of Americans, including financial data.
What I'm about to say, I mean with all sincerity. I would rather have foreign adversaries have access to my sensitive information than this guy. Like, I'd rather have the CCP have access to this information than Elon Musk. That is how little I trust Elon Musk. The fact that he is going to have access to social security data and information, like social security numbers, is so insane. What's, I guess, the most shocking aspect of this is that he also looks like a villain. He sounds like a villain. He is a billionaire who engages in space travel and also has a brain chipping operation. And so many people are just like, nah, that's my king. That's my God king. It's great. I want him to have access to all matter of information. I would love to use his credit card payment system that he will inevitably create off of all of this data that he probably will keep certainly secure. Like, he unironically does everything that people think Bill Gates is doing and hate Bill Gates for. There are plenty of good reasons to hate Bill Gates. People hate Bill Gates because of the things that they think Bill Gates is doing that Elon Musk is actually doing. But those very same people love Elon Musk. Make this make sense. I'm calling it. Joe Rogan is going to say that he'd love for Elon to have access to his bank account because he knows money. Oh God. We are progressively getting dumber and dumber, dude. I really didn't think, I really did not think that people would be like this open to, you know how like everyone was angry about AI possibly cutting jobs and stuff? Like there was a decent amount of people. You know, that's why Andrew Yang got any motion whatsoever. Okay, so the difference is like instead of AI, it's a bot cutting the jobs, a South African bot cutting the jobs. But as long as he says the right things, you're like, hell yeah, brother, that's good. So when does the economy crash after firing all these workers? Because that's kind of inevitable to firing hundreds of thousands from the well-paying public sector work. We already have a massive underemployment crisis in this country where everyone basically has to do gig economy work and barely make ends meet, or even do gig economy work on top of the existing jobs that they have. And in spite of all of that, the last remaining like middle class jobs that are readily available with like decent benefits that still don't pay a lot, mind you, are going away. America is just going to be a collection of maximum 100,000 millionaires and billionaires, and then everyone else in the country is going to be straight up the underclass, the permanent underclass. Yeah, this was Caroline Leavitt. Here, this is the summary of it. Trying to do damage control because as soon as Elon Musk started talking about Social Security, which we covered extensively earlier, right? Saying that he's going to engage in some cuts, obviously Fox News, which is an audience comprised of, 800-year-old people who obviously don't want their Social Security to be cut, freaked out. So immediately Trump had to send Caroline Leavitt on there to be like, no, we're not touching Social Security, I promise. So let's take a look at what this brown noser has to say.
We're advocating for Donald Trump's very plan. Take a listen.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules.
Oh, God, I hate this so much. Oh, my God. Hey, what now? What now, liberals? You understand? This is what happens when you engage in any sort of right-wing initiative. This is what you get. They use the shit that you did back in the day against you.
It is outrageous for the government to have rules and regulations which take those people's money from them and spend it on things that cannot be justified.
One of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we...
Wow. I love this. Clip Farm from 1993. It's not even a clip farm. They did do this, and they did advocate for this. It almost feels like neoliberalism and austerity is bipartisan. Oh my God. It almost feels like exactly what I say all the time in terms of what I hate about liberals. Obama also said that cutting the DOE is a terrible mistake. I know it's gotten worse over time. If your fundamental principles are aligned with the opposing party, then you still take initiatives in that same vein, in the same direction. What does austerity mean, streamer man? Austerity is belt tightening, okay? Fiscal responsibility, cutting social safety nets, cutting expenditures, cutting government spending. You know, things that the Democrats have also done. Isn't it not that black and white, though? What Dem cut is different than what Republicans cut? No, across the board, I do not maintain a position that federal worker cuts are good, okay? I don't think it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. Let me ask you this way, okay? Do you think that these guys, when they were pledging to cut government waste, okay, when they were saying that, do you think that they were like, yeah, there's a lot of wasteful spending in the government? Or do you think they actually were saying the exact same thing that Trump is saying right now, but because they're liberals, you just have this assumption that no, they are actually doing this for the greater good? It's the same exact shit. It's just a different party. Same suit, different tie, but you automatically assume, oh, this might be actually for good purpose. It's not. It's just the same shit. Unless you legitimately think that because Trump became president, that all of a sudden planes started falling out of the sky. Unless you legitimately think that, which I don't. I know I joke around about this a lot, but these are issues born out of austerity and born out of layoffs and born out of corner cutting, cost cutting measures that were set in motion many decades ago. This kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. And in that process, now you understand how the Republicans get to move even further right on this issue. Why do the Republicans get to move further right on this issue? Because the Democrats move right on this issue. This video, this collection of videos is a perfect example of this problem that liberals have. This is it. This is the ratchet effect in action right in front of your eyes. This is why I am so angry all the time at the things that the Democrats do, because that's supposed to be the party that you can kind of change. That's supposed to be the party that's supposed to exist as a counterweight to Republican initiatives.
Ah, amazing. They sound like Donald Trump, except they never got the job done. How times have changed. Now, tonight there are
They did get the job done, by the way. Sean Hannity is wrong.
Reports of a collective panic in the Washington swamp, a flood of new real estate listings as Trump dismantles the Washington bureaucracy at a rapid pace.
Yes, Mind Drive, which is one of the biggest liberals in this chat, is 100% correct. See, in 2 decades, Republicans will use footage of Dems supporting the immigration bill and saying, see, it won't take 2 decades. It'll happen now. If the Democrats actually were to actively start talking about these mass deportations as a negative, which they haven't, by the way, suspiciously, have you noticed that they haven't done that? They would do that.
That's exactly right, Sean. If you just watched that video, but shut your eyes and listened to the words from those Democrat politicians, you would think you are listening to President Trump, Elon Musk, and our entire administration, who are saying the exact same things that Democrat politicians promised the American people they would do for decades. President Trump is just the first president in our lifetimes to actually do it. And now you see the Democrat Party and the mainstream media spiraling out of control about a very simple promise: rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse from our federal bureaucracy. This is a promise President Trump campaigned on. He is now delivering on it. And I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp, who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump.
Yeah. No. We're not coming after your hard-earned Social Security dollars. I promise. We're just looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. She has to say that because everyone that watches Fox News is 800 years old.
Okay, now they have apparently found 8.7 million Americans who are listed. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't know if they're being paid, but they're listed and they're on the Social Security roll. Their names are there that are over 130 years old. 8.7 million Americans listed, and as Elon said, far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are actual citizens in the U.S.
Yeah. I wonder what this inconsistency represents. Does this mean that we are interpreting the data falsely? Interpreting the data that we're looking at incorrectly because we're a bunch of incompetent morons with no actual experience in this field? Or maybe it's actually that there is mass waste, fraud, and abuse occurring. Now, let me explain something to you. And this is something that will most likely happen. There will be real instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. Just like there's instances of waste in USAID or whatever the right? Obviously, of course there is. Just so you understand. It's just not what they're talking about, and that's not what they're going after. But they will use real examples to package up this broader narrative that there is, 150 million Americans that are over the age of 200 or whatever.
But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. 90 to 99, maybe it's possible. It's a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people? I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know that can't possibly be, because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in.
I
30
haven't even
years
gotten
old.
to this part of the broadcast yet, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. This is also incorrect. Once again, lying is so overpowered. Please nerf. Lying OP. Please nerf. The server is busted. Okay. Lying is far too OP. Please nerf. Mods.
140 years old. Now we're really going, because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old. 1,345,000. These are in the, by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well.
The worst part about this is just like the government is run by incompetent morons, okay? And they're just actively lying, and people don't have any critical thinking skills and quite literally just go, that makes sense. Yeah, I hate the government, and my favorite guy is just saying this, and he's saying it in a way that like agrees with my existing biases, so I'm going to believe him. F you.
They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people, and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old.
I don't think he's actually lying. He actually fucking doesn't know or understand how that works. Yes, but
6,
Elon is lying. Like, they're stupid, but they're still lying. They're lying to the American public. The idea that there are 400 million people currently getting Social Security benefits is wrong. It's just not correct. You are not interpreting the data correctly because you're a idiot. There's an answer for this. And I will explain to you why this inconsistency is now being presented as what the government is doing. So now you're smarter than Elon Musk.
79 people.
What? I'm smart enough to understand.
219 years.
I'm smart enough to understand that when a bunch of 19-year-old coders actually come to me and say that there are more people on Social Security payrolls than there are people in the United States of America, I'm smart enough to go, this seems like a false interpretation of the data. That's just a little bit of critical thinking, okay? So clearly, I guess in this instance, and just this instance alone, the answer is yes. When someone talks about a person, for example, getting Social Security payments that literally from a time when Social Security as a concept didn't exist, the idea that someone has been getting paid Social Security payments for a longer period of time than the existence of Social Security means that I am looking at the data falsely. I am interpreting the data incorrectly. Yes, I know it's the programming language. I haven't gotten there yet. The 160-plus-year-old stuff is because the programming language they used, COBOL, which is super old, apparently. The defaults to January 1st, 1950 or something if a date is missing. Yes. If there's incomplete data on the dates, it automatically assumes that it's 1875 or something, okay? Or 1850 or something. Yes, I know. I read the Wired article as well. 1850 is year zero in the meter convention. Thank you.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people? Can't we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people. Wonder how much of that money
These
came
guys
back
are
to the
so
people that
he's so
approved it.
dumb.
$14 million for
He's so
improving
dumb.
public procurement in Serbia.
I wonder what the reasons for why we have these civil society organizations that we are funding. much to consider here. Maybe because we want to make Serbia woke, I think. I wonder if we'll talk about Israel at all in this process, by the way, in terms of expenditures.
They opened their jails. They came in through Mexico. And we have some of the worst criminals coming in from the Congo and other places. So it's not just South America, and it's not just Venezuela, but they opened their jails. And you know the crime rates in Venezuela and other places all over the world has gone way down. You know why? Because they've given us their prisoners, they've given us their drug lords and their gang members. And it's hard to believe that we accepted this. It's hard to believe that we allowed open borders. And we're taking in, hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming in from all over the world. They're absolute stone cold.
It's pretty crazy that all of these violent criminals from all around the world are coming to America. And yet, instead of doing crimes, they're actually, unironically, through their presence and their proclivity to do less crime, as opposed to the existing natural-born U.S. population, lowering the crime rate in the United States of America across the board. It's crazy. I guess, like, when they come to America, they just no longer want to do crimes, magically. They're like, oh, yeah, well, we got jobs here, so no reason to do crimes. I guess that's what it is. America, truly the nation of rehabilitation. Anyway, yeah, they de-aggro when they come into the American server. Anyway, Kevin O'Leary, Doge isn't whacking enough with cuts. We're going to talk about some of these lies from Doge in general. The Doge team is finally posting examples of where they've cut spending. This one claims $8 billion in savings, bottom figure, but if you look at the fine upper print, the contract instead is valued at $8 million. What did they even cut? They cut U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Investigations and Operations Support Dallas, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Equal Employment Opportunity Funding Office. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Once again, lying is OP. Lying, especially due to incompetence, is doubly OP because when you are stupid, you don't even realize you're lying, which makes it easier for you to lie. Because if you're like aware that you're lying, that's going to be kind of difficult. That requires you to at least demonstrate some semblance of skill. When you know what the truth is, it makes it more difficult to lie. If you're stupid and you're lying, you can believe the lie. You can believe the false information. Here's Momentum Chaser that we were going to look at. After several delays, Doge has finally posted its purported savings. Why did it take so long to create a simple web page with a 1,000-row table? Who knows? Let's dig in. Headline number, $55 billion saved. They list the savings per next contract. This should be easy to verify then. First thing I did is add up the saved column for all canceled contracts and real estate. The numbers are $16.5 billion and $0.14 billion, respectively. Odd. Since almost all the purported savings come from contracts, we'll focus on that. Single biggest ticket item is a DHS contract listed at saving $8 billion. Wow, that's a huge contract. Actually, no, it's $8 million. They must have tried to automate scraping the FPDS form and failed. That means we're down to $8.5 billion in savings. So they claim $16 billion in savings, and it turns out it's not. It's just, I guess, across the board, $8 billion. Boom. Half of it is gone. The next three biggest ticket items are all U.S. aid contracts listed at $655 million each, so $2 billion total. Wow, pretty big. Wait, these are IDVs, not contracts. $655 million is the entire set-aside, being triple counted. In the first 5 years, only $73 million was awarded. Only 2 years remain. That's the other side of the story. They were like, oh, the CFPB's entire budget allocation is $1 billion. But how much of that $1 billion budget has the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, utilized so far? $200 million, which means they haven't used $700 million of their budget yet, more than $700 million. When you cut the CFPB, the saving is not $1 billion in that regard. It's also really stupid because the CFPB obviously has returned more than $20 billion back to the consumers with a mere $200 million of expenditure. Claim $55 billion, show $16 billion, actually $8 billion if you lose your eyes on the biggest thing. No, it's going to get worse than that. So we're down to $6.5 billion in savings, and an alarming trend emerges. Doge does not seem to understand how the government contracts they are canceling work. The savings they are claiming are not annual savings, but rather hypothetical savings if we spend every unobligated penny. And more importantly, they are just getting it wrong. With alarming consistency, these numbers are erroneous. This select group of geniuses has not double-checked even the largest items accounting for the bulk of their claimed savings. This is a sad, pathetic farce. Here's the next biggest item. An IT services contract for the Social Security Administration worth $1 billion. That's a lot of savings. Well, again, this contract spans 6 years. 80% has already been spent. Well, more like $240 million in savings spread over the next 3 years. $80 million a year. That's assuming it's not deliberate. No, I think you guys are attributing malice to how unimaginably incompetent these people are. I think that the negligence is malicious, certainly, like their lack of care is due to malice, but you have to understand that they are legitimately stupid. Okay, this is not to abdicate them of responsibility or morality. You know, because the end result is still the same: people getting fired, people being misinformed. But it 100% is also incompetence. Incompetence is, in my opinion, playing a major role here. Here, I'll give you an example of Israel. Israel's operations inside of the Gaza Strip. There is a breakdown of command with respect to appropriate kill targets in the Gaza Strip. But that chaos and that disorder is actually deliberate. That chaos and disorder is deliberate because what they want to do is create killing fields. And if you were to actually try to directly tell people to go out and engage in killing fields, well, then you don't have plausible deniability. So a lot of Israeli operations always look very incompetent, like when they've shot the convoy of the World Central Kitchen aid workers. But the real reason why that happened is because there is a breakdown in command that is deliberate, because they have corridors where they engage in mass killing. It doesn't matter. That is because the overarching goal of the entire government's military operation there is to engage in as much killing as possible. They are weaponizing incompetence. It kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier. It's easier to lie if you are too stupid to understand that you're lying. It's easier to lie if you're too stupid to recognize that the information you're working with is incorrect. The difference here, however, is that they have no interest in correcting the record. Like, this isn't like a, oopsie, we got this wrong, but we'll fix it. It's more so, oopsie, we got this wrong. Everyone is yelling at us, but what the fuck are they going to do about it? Because the outcome is still the same. Do you understand what I mean here? It's not necessarily that like this is being done because they're deliberately going, ooh, let's just add an extra zero to this contract to make it seem like we actually eliminated so much more of the debt than we actually did. They're not doing this in that vein, I guess. And so many less people will hear about the mistake portion of it. Yeah, partially because of how information echo chambers work nowadays online, especially with like the blossoming revolution of independent media. There are a million different outlets where you can get opinions that you want to hear masquerading as the truth. It creates additional permission cycles for false information to present itself as the reality. It creates an environment where people turn around and go, well, these guys are independent content creators. This guy's not even a political commentator at all. And he's also saying how great it is that the government is actually reducing so much of this like ridiculous expenditure that they were spending on, I don't know, gay autism research or whatever, or gay autism vaccination initiatives or whatever. And then every single day, we just move further and further away from the truth. In 2023, this contract funded 1,000 FTEs working $100 an hour. Did we need 1,000 SWEs working on SSA infrastructure? Probably not. These could be valid savings. Disclaimer, no idea what they actually did. But worth noting that these cuts will impact many private sector jobs as well. SWEs, not SVs. And if anyone is curious, there are currently 17 lines that say CFPDS rather than the savings amount. I guess because their automated scraping failed. I did it manually and it took roughly 10 minutes, but that's too much of an ask for super geniuses working 120 hours a week. If you look at the website, there's a toggle between contract value and savings, and so many of the savings line items are $0. A quote tweet in regard to the employee at Social Security. I went and looked at the publicly available contractual documents, probably closer to 2K employees in various roles. The contract sounds like it's the entire information technology department for the Social Security Administration. This will absolutely be a lawsuit. Motherfuckers are too dumb to understand government fund accounting. There's a reason it's a special topic in the accounting field, much like medical and construction accounting are. Yes. This is yet another instance where like there is a very deliberate, very real reason why there's highly specialized fields here, because most people don't understand the data that they're looking at. Now, this person is not a government accountant, as far as I understand. You know, he's just some random guy, right? And even some random guy can call out a bunch of these inconsistencies. Why are we pretending they care to be accurate? They're not. That's my point. They're not pretending to be accurate. They don't care. They're not even trying to pretend to be accurate. They're just throwing numbers out, knowing full well that there is no way to counter this kind of misinformation. There are very few outlets that are like actively trying to correct the record. And even then, it is very difficult. It is very difficult for them to do that because this is an unlimited faucet. Okay? It's an unlimited faucet of misinformation, like Twitter, for example. What's weird about the situation is that, yes, of course, is there a lot of bloat in the federal government? Obviously. I mean, look at the fucking DOD. Jesus Christ. Having said that, however, every competent Democrat should currently be matching up the FAA layoffs and the linking up with like the unions involved in every part of air travel to constantly say, look at all the planes that are falling out of the sky. Do you really want less people working on your safety? Every Democrat should be saying this. Every Democrat should be saying this and constantly pairing up the Republican agenda of austerity with death and destruction. This would be effective communication. Courts are not going to save us. For some reason, it went to the judge who saved Trump too. Just in, Judge Tanya Chutkan denies a request for temporary restraining order, TRO, which would block Elon Musk's access to certain government systems and limit Doge's capabilities and make changes in reducing government spending. Chutkan writes, plaintiffs have not carried their burden of showing that they will suffer imminent irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. Therefore, plaintiff's motion is denied. 14 states represented by their attorney general have filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Elon Musk, the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency Doge Service, U.S. Doge Service Temporary Organization, and President Trump. The emergency motion, based on the parties' briefing, oral argument, and the current record, the court finds the plaintiffs have not carried their burden of showing they will suffer imminent irreparable harm absent a temporary restraining order. Judge Chutkan goes on to say that the possibility that defendants may take action that irreparably harm plaintiffs is not enough. What is imminent irreparable harm if not losing your job? It goes even beyond that. It's imminent irreparable harm that people will lose their jobs for no reason. Okay, so there is plenty of imminent irreparable harm. But of course, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because guess what? Judge decided, nobody cares. On the record before it, the court cannot conclude that plaintiffs satisfy the high standard for irreparable injury. By the way, there was no standing for the court case that made its way all the way to the Supreme Court when the conversation was around Joe Biden abolishing student loan debt. There was no standing for that. And yet, seemingly enough, it made its way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually favored the people that brought the court the decision to begin with, or allowed the Supreme Court to make this decision to begin with. Yeah, no standing, but it didn't matter. They still stopped the Biden administration from doing something that is within his powers, which was to permanently throw to the future all matter of student loan debt, engaging in universal student loan debt relief. The court in the past 3 years literally said the situation you brought forth didn't actually happen, but just in case it did, we rule in the favor of the Republicans. It was insane. Yeah, there are instances like with the abortion, with the contraceptive ban, like the contraceptive trafficking ban that literally had no standing because there were no victims. It was a hypothetical victimhood that allowed them to take on this case. It's ridiculous. Like, that's ridiculous. They just made it up, and they've done it before too. But it's extra crazy because like this instance does have immediate harm. It was like that's what we're talking about. It was like the lady that made a website for a gay couple, but it was actually she never did, but the Supreme Court still took on the case.